Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show, by any host, or by any guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before you begin any new diet, exercise, or training program. And thank you for listening to the Whole Care Network.
Welcome to Healing Ties on the Whole Care Network. On Healing Ties, we're creating a life to love after caregiving ends by sharing stories and resources and being with awesome people like you. Now that caregiving has ended, let the Healing Ties begin. Here's your host, Chris McClellan, the Bow Tie Guy.
Well, greetings, everyone. It is Chris McClellan, the Bow Tie Guy, for another episode of Healing Ties on the Whole Care Network. Actually, it's our fifth podcast of our six-series podcast with Barbara McAfee. Barbara, welcome back.
Thank you, Chris. Good to be here.
Yeah, so we're just moving along in our little project here, and I'm getting a lot of new songs in my head, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm learning a lot of things, but before we do that, we might have a new listener or two today, and I hope we do, but let our listeners know a little bit about you and your background and why you're doing what you're doing.
I'd be happy to. I will start with where I am. I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota, right on the banks of the Mississippi River near downtown Minneapolis. And I am a caregiver for my 94-year-old mom, who lives about a half an hour away. So that's not what's first up on my website, but that's often what's first up on my heart when I wake up in the morning.
Very good.
And what is on my website describes all the work I do, which kind of centers on voice. I'm a singer-songwriter, I'm an author, speaker, song leader, and I'm really interested in helping people find their voice, whatever that means to them. And I wrote a book about that called Full Voice, The Art and Practice of Vocal Presence. So I do lots and lots of different things. I write a blog, I write songs, but the voice is right in the middle of it all.
And I've got a quote from somebody about you that I want, because somebody that I admire and respect, and I think it really fits. And I'm going to kind of surprise you here, but you already probably know this. From Parker Palmer. Barbara McAfee is a one-woman Burning Man's festival.
Yeah, he told me that when he heard me, when he saw me do some work with a group of his facilitators. And I said, oh my gosh, that's the best compliment I've ever gotten in my life. Can I put it on my website? And he said, by all means.
Goodness.
I don't exactly know what it means, but it still tickles me.
And when I said, I'm just going to wait for that opportunity to spring this on you, because I of course, everybody who's aware of Parker Palmer knows the terrific work, but I have to digress just a bit. I know somebody by the name of Palmer Parker, so I was hoping that I wasn't going to get the name. I hope I said, okay, my dyslexia is not going to set in today, is it? So I underlined Parker Palmer to make sure I knew what I was going to say. But today I gotta let our listeners know that for their listening pleasure, we have two songs today. It's it's kind of like bonus day on Songs for the Caregiver Soul. But I'm gonna throw this out here to you, Barbara. What the heck? What is a death song? Please fill us in.
Well, both of these songs are what I would call death songs. One is my own and one is that of a friend. And I was with this friend at a Sweet Honey in the Rock concert. It's a great a cappella African-American group. And one of the founding members stood up. Her name is Dr. Saya Barnwell. And she stood up and she said, now I'm going to sing you my death song. And she sang some song that had the phrase repeating, when I die, et cetera, when I die, et cetera. And as we were walking out of the concert, it was gorgeous, of course, and we're walking out of the concert, and my friend Jeannie says, I'm going to write my death song. And I said, so do I. So she came up to my little home studio, and we got together, and over a series of weeks, we wrote her death song. And basically, it's just sort of picturing what kind of a death would you like? which is kind of the same thing as picturing what kind of life you would like.
Sure.
And so hers is called Living in the Light.
Living in the Light. Well, why don't we turn Living in the Light on, and then we'll come back and chat a little bit about that, and then we'll get to the second song. How does that sound?
Perfect.
And this is Living in the Light with Barbara McAfee.
Just so ready to let go, yet I'm so in love with life. You're not surprised to know so many things about it, things to see, taste, hear, and feel. Even so, I'm willing to step off this wheel and sing myself into the wind, dance my soul up to the stars, plant my roots beside the redwoods that are so dear to my heart, ride the river to the ocean, disappear into the light. You know I'm gonna be alright. I'm gonna miss you so much, but you know me, I'm gonna find a way to stay in touch. When you're captured by the beauty, when you're lost inside the fear, count on me, I'll be right here. I'll be singing in the wind, I'll be dancing in the stars, I'll be growing in the redwoods, I'm still alive in your heart. When my river joins the ocean, when I turn into the light, I know you're gonna be alright, alright. You'll be singing in the wind, you'll be dancing in the stars, you'll be growing in the redwoods, I'm still alive in your heart. When your river joins the ocean, when you turn into the light, you know we're gonna be alright. We're gonna be alright. It's gonna be alright. It's gonna be alright. Living in the light.
Oh boy. Sing myself into the wind. Wow. There are just there's so many lyrics in there. We could probably talk for an hour on the song. It's so beautiful, and I guess what it speaks to me is it's not so much about death, it's about living life. And
Exactly. Yeah. And I can't tell you how much hilarity there was between us in writing it, and also deep thought on her part. She lives a distance away, and she did a lot of soul searching and a lot of thinking about what this meant to her, and it's quite a healing process for her to go through. And she's alive and well and kicking still. Wasn't that it was imminent or anything. It's just she said, I want to write my death song. And then we did that and recorded it that was the Morning Star Singers and our little hospice choir, our little comfort choir, singing with us. And so a few years passed, and all of a sudden she asked me once, she said, have you written your death song yet? I went, oh gosh, no, I never got around to it. So I got busy. went through the same process myself, and found it really, you'd think it would be like depressing, and it was quite the opposite. It was very enlivening and joyful. And I don't know if people, aren't songwriters that, or whatever. The form is not that important. I just think the process could be really an interesting one for your listeners to consider. Is it a poem? Is it a painting? Is it some creative expression to think about and consider the reality of your mortality? That rhymes.
Oh, goodness. The reality of, I have to write that one down. That is.
There you go. I never said that before. Yeah, I think I think it can be a really powerful experience to think it through for yourself, and also to have that conversation with your loved ones about, what's your intention about this really sacred passage that is, we're all headed there, right?
We're all headed there. We can't get out of it. No, goodness, I said we can't get out of this alive, but
That's right.
That was just right off the top of my head. Yeah. And for our next show, goodness, but there was another lyric that really stood out to me that I think it talks to all of us who are left behind when life transitions.
Mm-hmm.
Going to miss you so much. That I will find a way to stay in touch.
Mm-hmm.
That it has so much meaning, so much comfort, because there are those subtle ways that we remember those who have gone before us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I love that line when she came up, I'm still alive in your heart.
Yes.
That's another one that knocks me out. And the day we finally finished it, she's about 15 years older than I am. And the day we finished it, we were sitting in my house, and it was sunny, and she says, well, she's a retired professor, education professor, and she's just this kind of gutsy person. And she says, well, I think that's it. And I looked at her and I said, something tells me that it's likely I will be singing this at your memorial service at some point. And I got a little teary, and she got a little teary, and then she sort of said, well, I certainly hope so.
Oh, my.
But what a lovely thing, to sort of just speak that possibility into the room. That, this is and we, whenever we sing it in, at choir, she doesn't come as often as she used to because it's a long drive, but we love singing that song, and it's like she's there. She's not just alive in our hearts, she's, and she's still alive on the planet as far as I know, as of today, but she's alive in that song. She's present in that song.
Present in that song. Wow. Very powerful. Very powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think we're ready for our next song on this episode of Songs for the Caregiver Soul, and it's entitled "When I Die" by Barbara McAfee.
When I die, I know they'll be singing. From my friends all gathered around, as their sweet voices fade behind me, I will join with the one great sound, and I'll stand on a sunset hillside, just like I did in that dream. Join the multitudes there who are singing the song inside everything. When I die, I hope I'm not frightened, but it's not for me to know what awaits me there at the threshold, what's required in letting Every time I leave home or someone I love or a place sweet and holy, every time I slip into slumber, I am learning how to die. When I die, I'll fall into a hammock, woven of each song I've ever sung. I have sent them all forward to catch me on the day my life is done. I will slip into that great mystery like I did in the cool lake at dawn. I will swim those eternal waters, let the current of love take me home. When I die, I know they'll be singing from my friends all gathered around, as their sweet voices fade behind me. I will join with the one great sound.
Well, Barbara, if this was a video podcast, that people would be seeing me in tears.
Oh, sweetheart.
That is just so moving. Goodness.
Thank you.
Your friends will be singing, their sweet voices fading behind. Goodness. It's so soothing to listen to these.
It's strangely soothing, and I think I think there's so much. I mentioned this early in our first podcast, when I was present at my father's death when I was 31 years old, I was like, that's it? That's the big boogeyman that we're all supposed to be like totally scared of? It wasn't frightening to me. And I think there's a way that writing these songs has sort of also continued that process of saying, this is not a failure. It's not easy, but it's not bad. It's hard, but it's not bad. It's strong, but it's not bad.
Right.
And writing the song was actually, it was, again, a very deep inquiry about what does it mean to be alive for me.
Exactly.
There was, yeah. And years later, I was sitting with my friend Carly, who was traveling towards her death at 27. She had some severe disabilities, and the only place she could get comfortable was out on the deck in her hammock. And I just was singing various songs as they came up and was holding her hand, and she was conscious and looking around. And And all of a sudden I started singing, and I didn't even know what I was singing. I was singing her, my death song. And all of a sudden it occurred to me, when I die, I'll fall into a hammock woven of each song I've ever sung. And I just said, oh my gosh. The one song, in the last podcast, I was like taking dictations from my friend Jack after he had passed, or so it seemed. And for this one, it was like there was something prophetic in that. And there she was in her hammock. And we were walking towards her passing. So it's a mysterious business, this life and death, this threshold.
It is, and it's something that really does need to be talked about. And I think in talking about it through song, there's a piece about it that rather than just starting a conversation about it, having a musical intro into a conversation that, let's face it, most of us aren't comfortable having.
Right.
But it's a conversation that we all do need to have.
I agree. And how do you open that door to the taboo subject? Having, people have used the songs in that way. They've used the songs as a way to sort of broach the subject with a relative or a friend who's having a really hard time facing their own mortality, or a family member who's like everybody knows but Aunt Sadie, everybody's willing to talk about it, but sometimes there's a person who's just like, I'm not going there. You're going to get better. I know you are. Sometimes the songs can kind of go to work in a subtle way to sort of soften and open people to maybe being willing to look at the truth of the matter.
And that old saying, the truth does kind of set you free, and all too often we're in the midst of these health calamities, and really the stark reality is they're not going to get better, and and we, even as caregivers, need to deal with that as well. Two lives are going to be transitioning in two diverse ways, but to be able to talk about it, and then to be able to listen to songs like this, my goodness, where were you 4 years ago when I needed you? So,
oh, sweetheart, I know. I wish. Sometimes I think music doesn't care about time or distance, so I'll send it back to you.
It's timeless, and here. And there's another lyric that I just have to mention because it touched me in my personal journey. Swim those eternal waters until the current takes me home. I put Richard's ashes in the ocean.
Oh, of course you did.
And as he was going down with the current, I just said, you're just one port ahead of me. I'll catch up with you soon.
Right. Yeah, I think there's, as anguishing as it is to face the reality of mortality, there it is again. It opens the possibilities for some very healing conversations, for
very much so.
Forgivenesses and love, and very much what I've witnessed in your story with Richard, about making sure that you've said the things you need to say to each other. It's really sad when that doesn't get said, when that doesn't get said, when those things are unfinished. I think it's hard enough to grieve, but I think it's really extra hard if there's all that unfinished, unspoken stuff hanging around. So.
Well, Barbara,
so you didn't need me, darling. You did fine.
Oh, well, thank you. But
I would have liked to have been there. I would have liked to have been there to make you some soup and hold your hand.
Well,
to be clear.
Well, I've got you now, and I'm just honored to be able to do these with you, and hopefully, as we all heal from the transitions that we've been involved in, people who hear these podcasts will take some comfort and know that in their time, it will be okay.
It will be okay. And there's, as hard as it is, there's nothing, it's normal. This is normal. People die, people fail, people's bodies fail. It's inevitable, and it can be a very healing time if we let it.
Well, I have to say that you're pretty awesome, and I can't thank you enough. Not only are you creating healing ties all around us, you're just really one awesome person. I can't thank you enough for doing this today.
Thank you so much, Chris.
So let our listeners know how they can find you on the internet and get your wonderful music. Goodness, I'm privileged to have copies myself. So, but I want all of our listeners to have your music as well.
All right. The easiest way to find me is at BarbaraMcAfee.com. There's lots of music videos there and links to places where you can find other things that I'm up to. You can find my music on iTunes, Spotify, all those kinds of platforms. And my book is on all those kinds of platforms, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, those kind of places like that.
And we'll have all those links readily available on your landing page on the Whole Care Network at wholecarenetwork.com/songs for the caregiver soul. Barbara, we just got one more to do next week, but this certainly has been enlightening. And thanks again so much.
My great honor. Thanks, Chris.
Okay. Goodness gracious, St. Ignatius. We want to thank everyone for listening, and we welcome your comments and feedback. Send us an email at wecare@wholecarenetwork.com and join us next week for our 6th podcast. I'm not going to say the final because I might talk Barbara into doing a couple of more. You just never know with my persuasive ways. But I'm your host, Chris McClellan, the Bowtie Guy. I'm creating a life to love after caregiving ends through radio, writing, travel, advocacy, and being with awesome people like Barbara McAfee. Healing Ties and Songs for the Caregiver Soul are part of the Whole Care Network. Visit us online at thewholecarenetwork.com, where you can meet our show host, listen to all our shows, especially our podcast series featuring Barbara McAfee. Make it a great week, everyone. Be well, bye-bye, and enjoy this encore performance of When I Die by Barbara McAfee.
When I die, I hope I'm not frightened, but it's not